If you're planting veggies this spring and not thinking about climbers, you're missing out on some serious garden magic. Climbing veggies like cucumbers, peas, and beans don't just save space. They grow healthier, produce more, and make your garden look straight up amazing. Today, I'm spilling the best tips to grow the most epic climbing veggies ever. Let's go. Alright, let's start with the real stars of the show, our climbing vegetables. If you're gardening this spring and want to maximize space, get a bigger harvest, and make your garden look absolutely stunning, you need to include climbing veggies. These plants are natural-born climbers, meaning they love to grow upward instead of spreading all over the ground, and that comes with a ton of benefits. First off, climbing veggies help save space. If you've got a small garden, a patio, or even just a few containers, vertical growing is your best friend. You're using the air instead of the ground, which means you can plant more in the same area. Who doesn't want more fresh veggies, right? Second, they stay cleaner and healthier. Ever pulled a cucumber off the ground only to find it half rotted from too much moisture? Or lost half your tomato crop to slugs and dirt splashes? Yeah, not fun. Climbing veggies don't have that problem. Keeping them off the soil means fewer pests, less disease, and cleaner, healthier produce. And last but not least, they just look amazing. A garden filled with climbing vines, bright green leaves, and hanging fruits. It's like nature's artwork. Whether it's peas spiraling up a trellis, cucumbers dangling from a fence, or beans cascading over an archway, climbing veggies add a whole new level of beauty to your space. Now, let's break down the best climbing veggies to grow this spring. Green beans, pole beans. These guys are one of the easiest climbing vegetables to grow. Once they start, they don't stop. Pole beans are different from bush beans because they keep growing and producing all season long as you keep picking them. They love to climb, so give them a trellis or a teepee and they'll shoot up fast. Plus, they're loaded with nutrients and taste amazing fresh from the garden. Peas. Spring is the season for peas. These cool weather lovers thrive in early spring when the temperatures are still mild. They don't need much, just a simple net or wire fence to grab onto, and they'll take off. Snap peas, snow peas, and shelling peas are all great choices. Just remember, once the weather gets too hot, they'll stop producing, so plant them early. Cucumbers. If you've only ever grown cucumbers on the ground, it's time for an upgrade. Vertical cucumbers not only save space, but they also grow straighter, cleaner, and healthier. No more weirdly shaped, dirt-covered cucumbers. A sturdy trellis or A-frame is perfect for them, and they'll reward you with an endless supply of fresh, crispy cucumbers all summer long. Tomatoes. Indeterminate varieties. Not all tomatoes climb, so you'll want to go for the indeterminate types. These are the ones that keep growing and producing instead of stopping at a certain size. Think cherry tomatoes, heirlooms, and beefsteaks. Give them a tall stake, a tomato cage, or a string trellis and they'll be unstoppable. Squash and melons. Yes, even these can climb. Most people think of squash and melons as ground sprawl plants, but they can totally be trained up a trellis. The trick? Strong support. Use a sturdy arch or fence, and for heavier fruits like cantaloupe, use slings, yes, actual slings, to hold them up. It saves space and keeps the fruit from rotting on the ground. These 5 climbing veggies are garden game changers. Pick a few, or all of them, give them something to climb, and watch your garden transform into a vertical paradise. Alright, so you've picked out your climbing veggies. Now it's time to set them up for success. You can't just throw seeds in the ground and hope for the best. If you want strong, healthy plants that grow fast and produce like crazy, you've got to give them the right conditions from the start. Let's break it down step by step. First, find the best spot. Climbing veggies love sunlight. Most of them, especially cucumbers, beans, and tomatoes, need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. The more sun, the better. Pick a sunny spot in your garden, and if you're working with containers, place them where they'll get maximum light. If you don't get enough sun, your plants might grow, but they'll be weak, leggy, and won't produce as much. Second, get your soil right. Good soil equals happy plants. Climbing veggies grow fast, which means they need plenty of nutrients. Before planting, prep your soil with compost or organic matter to make sure it's rich and full of life. Here's what you want. Loose, well-draining soil. If your soil is too compact, roots won't spread and plants will struggle. Nutrient-rich soil is essential. Mix in compost, worm castings, or aged manure to give them a boost. Good moisture balance is key. You want soil that holds moisture but doesn't stay soggy. If you're planting in containers, go for a high-quality potting mix instead of garden soil, and make sure your pots have drainage holes. Give them enough space. A big mistake new gardeners make, planting too close together. When climbers are crammed in, they have to fight for sunlight, nutrients, and airflow. That leads to weak plants, fewer veggies, and a higher chance of disease. Here's a quick spacing guide. Pole beans and peas, 4 to 6 inches apart. Cucumbers, 12 inches apart. Tomatoes, 18 to 24 inches apart. Squash and melons, 24 to 36 inches apart. It might look like too much space at first, but trust me, once they start growing, they'll fill in fast. Plant at the right time. Spring is prime planting season, but timing matters. Different climbing veggies have different temperature needs. Peas love cool weather, so plant them as soon as the soil is workable. They can even handle light frost. Beans and cucumbers? Wait until the danger of frost has passed. These guys love warmth, so planting too early will stunt their growth. Tomatoes and melons need warm soil and warm nights. If it's still chilly, hold off or start them indoors. Check your local frost dates before planting. If you plant too early, your seeds might rot, or your plants will struggle to grow. Train them early. This is the biggest secret to growing climbing veggies successfully. Train them while they're small. When vines first start growing, they don't always know where to go. If you don't guide them early, they'll sprawl everywhere, and you'll be stuck untangling a mess later. For beans and peas, help them find the trellis by gently wrapping their tendrils around it. For cucumbers and tomatoes, use soft ties or clips to secure them to their support. For squash and melons, keep the vines going in the right direction before they get too heavy. Check on them every few days and keep guiding them up. If you do this early, they'll naturally climb on their own as they grow. Bonus tip, companion planting. Want to grow even healthier climbing veggies? Pair them with the right companions. Marigolds and basil repel pests and attract pollinators. Radishes and lettuce grow well underneath climbers without competing for space. Nasturtiums trap pests like aphids and keep them off your veggies. With the right setup, your climbing veggies will take off and give you an amazing harvest all season long. Now, let's get them the perfect trellis to climb on. Alright, now that your climbing veggies are ready to grow, they need something to climb on. Not all trellises work for every plant, so choosing the right support is key. A good trellis keeps your plants off the ground, helps them grow stronger, and makes harvesting way easier. Let's break down the best trellises for each type of climbing vegetable. Peas and pole beans are natural climbers. They don't need much help finding their way up. Their vines have tiny curling tendrils that wrap around whatever they touch. That means you don't need anything too fancy, just something they can grab onto. Best options. Garden netting, super easy and cheap. Just attach it to a fence or 2 posts and they'll do the rest. Bamboo poles or teepees. Stick 4 to 5 bamboo poles in the ground and tie them at the top. Classic, sturdy, and works great for beans. Wire fencing. A simple roll of wire fencing gives them plenty of spots to latch onto. Pro tip, start guiding them early. If they're struggling to grab onto the trellis, wrap them around gently to encourage climbing. Cucumbers love to climb, but they need a strong support system since their vines get heavy. If you let them sprawl on the ground, you'll end up with misshapen, dirty, or rotting cucumbers. No thanks. Best options. A-frame trellis. This is one of the best ways to grow cucumbers. It keeps them off the ground, gives them plenty of airflow, and makes harvesting a breeze. Cattle panel trellis. Super sturdy and easy to install. Just bend a cattle panel into an arch or attach it to a frame. Vertical trellis with netting. Attach some strong netting to a wooden frame or fence and let them climb straight up. Pro tip, train cucumbers early. If they grow outwards first, they'll be harder to get onto the trellis later. Tomatoes don't have tendrils, so they won't climb naturally like peas or beans. That means they need extra support to stay upright and produce well. Without support, they'll sprawl everywhere, break under their weight, and be more prone to disease. Best options. Tomato cages, the easiest option. Just place a cage around each plant, and they'll grow up through the center. Tall stakes. Drive a strong wooden or metal stake next to each plant and tie the stem to it as it grows. String trellis, perfect for indeterminate tomatoes, the ones that keep growing. Tie a string from the top of a frame and loosely wind the plant around it. Pro tip, keep tying tomatoes up as they grow. If they get too top heavy, they'll fall over and snap. Wait, squash and melons can climb? Yes! These plants might be heavy, but with the right trellis, they can grow up instead of spreading everywhere. The key is strong support so the vines don't collapse under the weight of the fruit. Best options. Archway or tunnel trellis. One of the coolest ways to grow melons and squash. A strong archway lets the vines climb up and the fruits hang down naturally. Sturdy A-frame or fence works great, but make sure it's solid enough to hold the weight. Hammock slings, for extra heavy fruits like cantaloupe or small pumpkins, use old t-shirts or mesh fabric to create a sling that supports them as they grow. Pro tip: if your fruit starts pulling the vine down, tie the vine to the trellis with soft garden ties for extra support. DIY trellis. Ideas, get creative. You don't have to spend a ton of money on fancy trellises. Some of the best garden supports come from stuff you already have lying around. Try these. Old ladders, stand them up and let plants climb. Wooden pallets, prop one against a wall for an instant trellis. Repurposed fences, got an old wire fence, instant plant support, upcycled bed frames. The metal bars work perfectly for climbing plants. With the right trellis, your climbing veggies will grow taller, stay healthier, and produce way more. Let's talk about keeping them happy with the right watering and care. Alright, you've got your climbing veggies growing up strong, but now comes the real challenge: keeping them healthy all season long. Just like any other plant, climbers need the right balance of water, nutrients, and pest control to thrive. Let's break it down so you can get the biggest, healthiest harvest possible. Watering deep and consistent is the key. Watering sounds simple, right? Just turn on the hose and soak your plants? Not quite. Climbers need a specific watering routine to grow strong, healthy, and productive. Here's what to do. Water deeply, not just the surface. Shallow watering leads to weak, shallow roots. Instead, aim for deep watering 2 to 3 times per week, so moisture reaches down where the roots can really use it. Water in the morning. This gives plants time to absorb moisture before the sun gets too hot. Watering at night can lead to mildew and disease. Use a drip system or soaker hose. Spraying water from above can lead to wet leaves, which attract pests and disease. Drip irrigation or a soaker hose keeps the water at the roots where it belongs. Mulch, mulch, mulch. A layer of mulch, like straw, wood chips, or dried leaves, around your plants locks in moisture, stops weeds, and keeps the soil cool. Plus, it helps prevent dirt from splashing onto your veggies. Feeding. Give them the right nutrients. Climbing veggies grow fast and produce a lot, which means they need plenty of nutrients to keep up. The trick is feeding them at the right time with the right stuff. Here's a simple feeding guide: compost or organic fertilizer at planting. This gives them a slow-release nutrient boost right from the start. Liquid feed every 2 to 3 weeks. A balanced fertilizer like compost tea, fish emulsion, or diluted seaweed extract will keep them strong. High phosphorus fertilizer for fruiting. Once your climbers start flowering, switch to a fertilizer with more phosphorus, the middle number on the label. This helps with flower and fruit production. Pro tip: too much nitrogen, the first number on a fertilizer label, can make your plants grow tons of leaves but little to no fruit. Stick to balanced feeding. Keeping pests away. Natural solutions that work. Nobody wants to walk outside and find their climbing veggies covered in holes or crawling with bugs. Pests love climbing plants, so here's how to keep them under control, without spraying toxic chemicals. Common climbing veggie pests and how to stop them. Aphids, tiny green or black bugs on stems and leaves. Blast them off with water. Use neem oil or insecticidal soap. Attract ladybugs, they love eating aphids. Cucumber beetles, yellow and black striped beetles on cucumbers and squash. Use floating row covers to keep them away. Sprinkle diatomaceous earth around your plants. Plant radishes as a trap crop, they'll eat the radishes instead of cucumbers. Tomato hornworms, huge green caterpillars that munch on tomato leaves. Pick them off by hand, they're big and easy to spot. Release parasitic wasps, they lay eggs inside hornworms and stop them. Plant basil and marigolds near tomatoes, hornworms hate the smell. Slugs and snails, chewing holes in leaves, especially at night. Use crushed eggshells or diatomaceous earth around plants, sharp edges keep them away. Set up beer traps, yes, slugs love beer, they'll crawl in and drown. Keep mulch light, too much can give slugs a hiding place. Pro tip: companion planting is a game changer for pest control. Marigolds, basil, nasturtiums, and chives repel pests naturally and help your climbing veggies thrive. Pruning and maintenance. Keep them under control. Once your climbing veggies take off, they can get wild fast. If you let them grow out of control, they'll get tangled, overcrowded, and more likely to attract disease. Here's how to keep them in check. Trim excess leaves. More airflow equals fewer diseases. If the plant is too bushy, snip off a few leaves to let air circulate. Pinch off suckers on tomatoes. These little extra stems steal energy from the main vine. Removing them equals bigger, better tomatoes. remove old or diseased leaves. If you see yellowing leaves or signs of disease, cut them off as soon as possible before it spreads. Final tip: harvest often. The more you pick, the more your plants will produce. Beans, peas, cucumbers, and tomatoes all keep producing if you keep harvesting. If you leave overripe veggies on the vine, the plant thinks it's done for the season and stops growing, so pick early and often. With the right care, your climbing veggies will grow strong, stay healthy, and give you the best harvest ever. Now get out there and start growing. Happy gardening!